is being recorded.
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to our program, our course on the Nectar of Instruction, which is a verse by verse study course. So, right now we are on text 4. Last week we started this text, discussion on this text. So, this is the second part of that class. And in total, we are on our 12th class this evening. So, we will be discussing today the topic on how exchanging gifts, prasadam, and the mind nourishes our bhakti. So these are loving exchanges between the devotees. We already started this discussion in our previous class, and today we will go a little deeper into the subject matter. Now, may I request Rakesh Prabhuji for doing the Mangalacharan prayers? Prabhu, you have to do the Mangalacharan in Sanskrit and then also read the translation which is there on the screen. You will see that on the screen.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you. Should I start, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupaha Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurunu Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajimam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami along with his elder brother Sanatan Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta and Sri Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advait, Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishakha. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishbhanu and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas devotees of the Lord who can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and who are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Sri Vasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you very much. for nicely reading the Mangalacharan, reciting the Mangalacharan and reading the translation. So now we come to the next part of the class, which is the recap of the previous class. So we had requested Manish Prabhu to do the recap or prepare the summary. But somehow Manish Prabhu is transitioning from Bangalore to his new job in Singapore, and that is why he expressed his inability to be present in the class for a couple of weeks. So since it was quite late information to me that he would not be able to do it, rather than allocating this service to some other devotee, I felt that let me do it myself, because it was not sufficient time to for other devotee to prepare the summary and do the recap. So kindly allow me to do the recap for the previous class, which was on text 4 of Nectar of Instruction. And the major theme of this text is 6 loving exchanges, which nourishes our bhakti. So the background I gave in the previous class was that in text number 2 and text number 3 of Nectar of Instruction, Srila Rup Goswami has emphasized on association. And how do we come to know about it? We come to know because in text number 2, Srila Rup Goswami has mentioned about association, uh, Sangatyagat, and then, sorry, in text number 2, it is about Janasanga, and in text number 3, it is about Sangatyagat. So among all the other qualities, vices, and all virtues, Srila Rup Goswami has repeated specifically about association twice in text number 2 and text number 3. And we discussed this, that it is this emphasis is this repetition is not a mistake. This repetition is mainly to emphasize the fact that association in devotional life is of prime importance. And now from text 4 onwards, you will see that he will in fact elaborately discuss about association. How to take that association would be the theme in text number 4. So we then understood the meaning of text number 4, that what are those 6 loving exchanges between the devotees that nourishes our bhakti. And these are giving and receiving gifts, offering and partaking food or prasad with the devotees, and uh, revealing our heart in confidence to other devotees, and inquiring from other devotees in confidence. So these are the 6 loving exchanges. If done properly with proper mood, uh, it really enhances our bhakti, it nourishes our bhakti. Also, we gave a little introduction about why these exchanges are important. These exchanges are all externals. Externals means giving gifts, receiving gifts, offering food, receiving food, and similarly in our communication, exchanging our mind, exchanging our heart, what is there in our heart. These are all external actions. So we mentioned that although bhakti is a cultivation of inner emotion for the Supreme Lord Krishna in our heart, but this cultivation of inner devotion or inner loving feelings for the Lord and his devotees should not be limited only to the boundaries of the heart. People cannot see our heart. What people can see is how we behave externally. So these 6 loving exchanges actually really nourishes our bhakti, and that is what we try to emphasize, that although bhakti is a inner cultivation of emotion towards the Lord, but that inner cultivation of emotion has to be expressed externally also, so that our bhakti further nourishes. We then went on to describe that we find that these 6 exchanges are seen even in material life. We see the businessman inviting uh, other people from the same business. He would invite them for lunch or dinner, or he would also give them some presents uh, to prove his goodwill, to prove his interest in the other businessman. And then after exchanging these pleasantries, he would also inquire about the markets which in which they are operating and so on. So we also discuss that how when the six exchanges applied properly result in loving relationships. And why do we need these loving relationships among devotees? Because we understand Lord Krishna or devotion towards Lord Krishna through his devotees. When we see that the devotees are really very gentle people, they are really a very cultured people, they are very devoted towards the Lord. So, why do when do we feel that emotion? We feel that emotion when we feel that kind of a positive emotion with the devotees. We it really facilitates having that kind of a positive emotion towards the Lord also. So that is why developing attraction to Krishna through his devotees, and that is why good relationship among the devotees are very, very important. Then we elaborately described on this particular theme that six loving exchanges that we just now saw here, exchanging gifts, food, heart to heart talks. These six loving exchanges are actually a part of Vaishnava culture, and people who are uh, in the Vedic system, and generally people in India are what they see today is the remnants of Vedic system. So this is the theme we discussed in great detail last time, that these are very much part of Vaishnav culture, and we can see also the remnants of these relationship, the remnants of these cultural aspects even today in the society, specifically in India. So we discussed this part with the help of several stories, several anecdotes. Uh, One was Sudama and Krishna, Lord Krishna's story. We saw from this story that how, although Sudama was a very poor Brahmana, but once when he decided to visit the Supreme Lord at his place in Dwarka, he did not went to see the Lord empty-handed. As a mark of his loving feelings, emotional feelings towards his very dear friend, he went out of the way, the family went out of the way, even begged and borrowed uh, a handful of chipped rice, a flat rice, chivda, what we call it in Hindi. The wife of Sudama actually arranged for this chipped rice for taking to Lord Krishna, and we see that how Lord Krishna really so lovingly and so respectfully honors it with so much heart and love when Sudama brings that rice to the Supreme Lord. So this is, you can see how these loving exchanges are taking place. Although the rice material value is very insignificant, but the way the Lord gives importance to the to the rice really charms the heart of his very dear friend Sudama. And the loving exchange nourishes their relationships. It nourishes the bhakti of the devotee also. Then we mentioned three stories from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Charitamrita is the book which describes the lives and teachings of Sriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came roughly 500 years ago and actually who started the Sankirtan movement, which ISKCON is one of the branch. And just now we read this Mangala Charan, and you would have noticed a lot of names there: Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and so on. So you can see that in Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these people are there and their pastimes are recorded there in that book. Very sweet book, and loving exchanges between the devotees. You can find a lot of examples there. So we saw one of the stories where Raghunath Das Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came to know about the renunciate spirit of Raghunath Das Goswami, he became very, very pleased. Uh, and out of that pleasure, he actually offered his own Shaligram Shila and his own Gunjamala to Raghunath Das Goswami. So Raghunath Das Goswami was really ecstatic because this Shaligram Shila and this Gunjamala was the personal articles of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And for Raghunath Das Goswami, that was a very, very precious gift for him, that the Lord, his personal articles of worship, actually he has given to me. Then Sanatan Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stories, we understood from this story that when Sanatan Goswami uh, protested in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really kind of appreciated Sanatan Goswami, but chastised or kind of spoke a little bit harshly towards another devotee by the name Jagadanand Pandit. Then Sanatan Goswami protested. He protested that we give chastisement to those who are really close to us, and we offer appreciation and praise to those people who are we are having a little formal relationship. So Sanatan Goswami felt uh, somewhat hurt when he saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not chastising him, but he was chastising somebody else. So he protested that, my dear Lord, why are you doing that kind of a injustice to me? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then clarified that no, it is not because of this reason. It is really because that I consider you as the senior and Jagadanand Pandit as your subordinate or as your junior. I'm making that claim. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very pleased to Sanatan Goswami. So you can see from this little pastime that how Sanatan Goswami revealed his emotions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clarified those. So these are loving exchanges going on between the devotees. Similarly, in one another story from Chaitanya Charitamrita, we saw that Rup Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, between Rup Goswami and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciates the poetry written by Rup Goswami. And he not only appreciates in front of Rup Goswami, but he invites other Vaishnavas also and appreciates Rup Goswami's poetry. And then and requests Rup Goswami to share more of his poetry to the other devotees. Then Rup Goswami share one of the verses that he has written for in glorification of the holy name of the Lord. And everyone else, the Vaishnavas, really appreciates. So such nice poetry, such nice expression. We can't think that any better expression can happen like that. So you can see here the exchanges are going on with respect to Krishna Katha or Krishna's holy name. How the Vaishnavas are exchanging their realizations regarding the spiritual practice of chanting of holy name. One is appreciating how nice poetry, another one is then they ask Rup Goswami to recite more and more poetry. Like that, we can see here giving gift, revealing heart in confidence. These kind of examples we can see from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Similarly, I also shared one another anecdote from Srila Prabhupada's life, and this was when Srila Prabhupada had already gone to America, and there he had already started publishing his books, and he would keep his books to various bookstores. And there was a bookstore in New York where there was a lady was in charge in that bookstore, and with Prabhupada would engage in some conversation with the lady sometimes occasionally, and in some of those conversations he understood that the lady likes samosas, Indian samosas, very much. So next time when Prabhupada visited that store, he took a full plate of samosas personally cooked by himself for the lady. And the lady, when she came to know that Prabhupada has brought that samosa, she was really charmed by this Prabhupada gesture. So this is something you can see that Prabhupada was very, very particular about uh, uh, showing these affectionate, reciprocating feelings with others. And that is how he really captivated the heart of his disciples or whomever he came in contact with. So this is a little recap of the previous class. And let us now move forward. Uh, so in this class, we will be uh, what we will be doing is we will be uh, discussing more in detail about these 6 loving exchanges, but not based on the content that you will see in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So we will uh, explain you few other aspects of these 6 loving exchanges, which are in our opinion very important, and will further enhance your understanding about these 6 loving exchanges. So I will skip these slides or will brush through these slides very fast. So as you can see, we are at this point in the Nectar of Instruction book. We are on text number 4, and this is about 6 loving exchanges. So we have covered urges, 6 vices, and 6 virtues. So Next, we will also see how to associate. The verse number 5 and verse number 6 is also about association. So you can see that how in text number 2 there is a mention of association. In text number 3 there is a mention of association. Fourth, we are uh, discussing how to associate with the devotees. Then how to associate with different types of devotees, and not to see pure devotees from a material vision. That is the subject matter of text 6. So association, you can see, has been given a lot of importance in this particular book. uh, so we will skip this slide. We have covered this in the previous classes. So let me quickly recite the verse for you just to warm up the discussion. ददाति प्रतिगृह्णाति गुह्यम आख्याति पृच्छति भुंक्ते भोज्यते चैव षड्विधम प्रीति लक्षणम. So this is Preeti Lakshanam. So loving exchanges. These are the 6 symptoms of love shared among the devotees. And what are those? Dadati, Pratigrahanati. Dadati means giving. Pratigrahanati means receiving in exchange, accepting gifts. Then Guhyam Akhyati Prachati. So Guhyam is means confidential. Akhyati means to tell, and Prachati means to ask or inquire. Bhunkte. Bhunkte means eating, and bhojyate means feeding or offering food, offering prasad. So these are the 6 activities which are actually Preeti Lakshanam, uh, 6 Preeti Lakshanam among the devotees. So we will skip this slide, which is about the word meanings. We discussed this in the previous class. And translation also, I think, let us skip this. And now coming to the subject matter of the text number 4. So in the previous class, we had covered from introduction to all the way up to 6 exchanges are part of Vaishnava culture. And I just now summarized the class in front of you. And in the summary, I have covered all these aspects. Today, we will discuss 6 exchanges in detail. Yeah. And then we will tell you that we should not do these 6 exchanges, or should do these 6 exchanges with others. Which category of people we should do these exchanges very carefully, or rather avoid doing these 6 exchanges. So that is will be the last part of this class. Okay, so to start the discussion on the today's class, first of all we will discuss about dadati pratigrahanati. And dadati pratigrahanati, as I mentioned, dadati means giving gifts, and pratigrahanati means receiving gifts in exchange. Now, when we give a gift to someone, it actually has 2 ingredients. One is the intent behind giving the gift, and the second one is the content of the gift. So there are 2 aspects when we give a gift to someone. Among the intent and content, the intent part actually is the most important part. Among the intent and content, the intent actually is more important. And where do we come to know this particular aspect in Bhagavad Gita? We come to know about that aspect in Bhagavad Gita in the verse in chapter 9, verse number 26, which talks about Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadham bhaktya upahritam ashnami pratyatmanah. Now, we have already discussed this verse in detail when we were studying Bhagavad Gita. But here, what is the most ingredient part? The Lord says, one who offers me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. But how does he offer? He offers these things to me. Yo me bhaktya prayachati. Huh? He offers me this with love and devotion. And then Lord says, I will accept the offering in devotion. So the most important ingredient when we do any offering to the Supreme Lord actually is bhakti, our love and devotion. So here you can see the content of the offering may not be really very opulent. The Lord is talking about a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. So the offering here is not very opulent, but the Lord is emphasizing mainly on bhakti prayachiti. So that is what I was trying to mention to here in this slide. that when we give a gift to someone, the intent is more important than the content. But at the same time, uh, what do we do when we make an offering of a gift to someone? We when, or in particular, when we offer a gift to the Lord, what exactly are we trying to do? And when we are talking about intent, actually we are offering our heart to Krishna. By offering a gift to the Lord, or by offering a gift to someone, actually we are offering our heart to that person, or we are offering our heart to Krishna. Sometimes when we have a difficulty offering our heart, we don't have that kind of an emotion or a very strong emotion, then what should we do? In that case, if we are not able to offer our heart, then we should offer what is there in our heart. And what do we mean by that? When we say what is there in our heart, so most of the time, and with most of the people in this world, majority of the people, uh, the Supreme Lord may not be present in their heart to that great extent. But generally, people, what do they have generally in their heart? They, instead of having love for the Lord, they generally have love for money or love for material possessions, mm, the pleasures and the treasures of this life. So when we are not able to offer our heart despite best of our attempts, then at least we should make an attempt to offer what is there in our heart. And uh, with most of the people in the world, in their heart there is money. And when we offer money, which is very dear to us, to the Lord, then what happens is the Lord makes a little space in our heart. The Lord comes in our heart and occupies and start occupying that place, in a small way. To the degree we offer, to the degree the Lord actually start accepting the space in our heart. So uh, this is the actually the message from this slide. So I was mentioning to in the previous slide that actually the intent is more important. But we should also understand that if our intent is good, if our intent is proper, then most of the time the content automatically becomes good. We want to serve the person whom we are loving and whom we are giving a gift with the best possible content also. Yeah. So if the intent is good, then the content automatically follows. So we would like you would see that many times children who are very fond and loving towards their parents and so on, sometimes they would go to great extents to actually give them surprise, give them gift. They will do all kind of creative ways to to make a present to the person whom actually they are loving. So if the intent is good, then the content automatically becomes good. But now when we say the content is good, then when we want to make a content good, how can we make a content good? We can make a content good by offering something to the person what that person actually really appreciates. Not all people appreciate uh, any gift. If you give something which the person doesn't really like, uh, then although the person would really appreciate that, okay, somebody brought the gift for you, but what if you give a gift to a person of his liking, of his choice, of what he really appreciates to the core of his heart or her heart? Then that exchanging of gift or that giving of gift really becomes very, very important. Very, very, very uh, uh, warm exercise, a very warm activity. So different people actually value different things. Huh? Uh, so gift can also be of two types. One could be a tangible gift and another could be an intangible gift. So tangible gift would mean that a book can be given, or a flowers can be given, or a dress can be given, or you can think of many, many other things. But the point I'm trying to make is when we customize the gift according to the liking of the person, then the whole exchange of this activity becomes very, very sweet and very enriching in terms of deepening the relationship. So sometimes the gift may not necessarily always be a tangible gift. maybe a concrete or a gross object, something like that. But intangible gift could be word of appreciation. uh, it could be words of affection. It could be a sweet note that you can leave for a person. Those things are also could be an intangible gift. Sometimes just being present with the person can be as valuable as a gift for the other person. Maybe the person was in need at that time. He was looking for some emotional uh, support or emotional uh, uh, he want an emotional exchange, or he want to share something. And if you give somebody a simple hearing, a patient hearing, a compassionate hearing, that can also be something like an intangible gift for the other person. So the point I'm trying to make is, it is a loving exercise. It's a exercise where we want to exchange love with the other person. And when we are considerate about the other person, automatically our intent is there. And when the intent is there, the content actually automatically follows. The content automatically becomes good. So another important part is giving gifts on some of these important days, like for example birthdays, marriage anniversaries, and so on. Now these days are those days when people are really very soft. People's emotions are people's hearts are very soft on some of these days. And uh, on these days they are actually looking forward to some good emotional exchange or some good loving exchanges with others. And on these days, if we express with these people with some gifts and all these uh, some loving exchange with these people, then that experience can become really very enriching. Here we are bringing this topic specifically because in a spiritual movement like ours, where we talk about soul, where we talk about body, where we talk about life after death, and so on, where we generally emphasize upon spiritual more than material, and so on. So sometimes people think that uh, when we talk about birthdays, when we talk about wedding anniversaries, and so on, we are actually talking about some material things. Like for example, uh, in in one of these ISKCON societies, one boy who had recently come in contact with the devotees, he went to the temple, and there one of the leaders in the temple, he met this leader and then mentioned to him very joyfully, sir, today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. And this person who was a leader in that temple, he did not show a very compassionate behavior towards this boy. So he actually made a remark to this boy. So how old is your stool bag today? So he actually referred to his the body of this boy is, so how old is your stool bag today? Now that is something, a very cold hearted attitude, uh, by specifically by someone who is at a leadership position in a spiritual community. uh, so the point I'm trying to make is that we should not, as devotees or as spiritualists, should not see these kind of occasions as simply a materialistic day, where generally people will say that today you have grown 1 year old, you are actually 1 year closer to death, and so on. So those kind of things actually may put off people. We should not show some behavior like that. So the point I'm trying to make is that on these particular days, when people's heart are very soft, and a loving relationship or a loving gesture on this particular day for the other person actually can go a very long way in developing and building these loving relationship among the devotees. So we should use these opportunities to create devotional impressions in the heart of the devotees. If they go to the temple, we should welcome them. We should actually, if possible, make an announcement that today is this particular devotee's birthday or a wedding anniversary, and the others in the community can also greet to this person. There is a example, also a positive example from our society, where one of the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, His Grace Jainanda Prabhu, uh, he was a person who would be very, very enthusiastically serving Srila Prabhupada in his mission. And he was also a leader in the temple. And once he saw that one of the devotees in his congregation was working very hard. He was serving with a lot of emotion, with a lot of dedication, and so on. And he quietly noticed what that devotee was doing. And at the end of the day, he quietly went to the devotee and mentioned to him, just can you please go to the office and open the cupboard? And the devotee did like that. And when the devotee opened the cupboard, he found that a large, huge, big cake in front of him. And Jayananda Prabhu mentioned to him, this whole cake is for you. I'm so happy and pleased the way you have served today that I felt that I should give a gift to you. And this devotee was so enthusiastic. He was so enthusiastic to see that gift. And he felt so encouraged by that loving gesture of Jainanda Prabhu. So these small, small gestures, it may not necessarily be a gift of a big cake or something like that, but making a small loving gesture to people on this day can actually go a very long way in deepening these relationships. So we should understand, specifically in relationships, this analogy of bank account, actually we should remember, specifically in all our important relationships, we should keep our emotional bank account positive. So you are all grown up people, mature people, have seen life to a large extent. So you have also seen how the dealings in bank goes. So on one side it is a debit, and another side there is a credit. Credit means that the money is coming in, debit means the money is going out. Hmm. So we deposit something in the account and we sometimes withdraw from the account. When we withdraw from the account, our balance reduces. When we deposit something, our balance increases. Similarly, we also have in a relationship an emotional bank account. And this emotional bank account grows up when we make deposits. How do we make that deposits? We keep our promises. We do some small acts of kindness. We be loyal to the other person. We listen emphatically, sympathetically when the person is actually distressed, when he is sharing his emotions, sharing his heart. We should not shy away from saying thank yous, sorries, whenever it is required. And we should keep and set clear expectations with the people. Similarly, when do we do the withdrawals? We do withdrawals when we break promises, when we keep to ourselves, when we gossip and break confidence, when we don't listen, when we are arrogant, we are not even apologetic or saying sorry or thank you, and we set some false expectations. So these are some of the examples of emotional bank account. So in any relationship, when we keep our emotional bank account on a positive, have a more credits in the emotional bank account, then it really helps. It really helps. So Radhanath Maharaj, he's one of the leaders in our society. He's a is initiating guru, spiritual master. So he mentioned one remark in. He was invited to speak in the House of Commons in London, in the British Parliament. He was invited as a speaker to speak there, and he during his speech he made one remark, and after he made that remark and he finished his speech, most of the people came to meet him and actually uh, made a mention of this remark multiple times. So that remark certainly must be very, very useful and important. Let me share that remark with you. So Radhanath Maharaj said, say, if you want to know how rich you are, if you want to know how rich you are, just see how many eyes shed a tear when you die. Just see how many eyes shed a tear when you die. And that will actually be the parameter of how rich you are. So that is what Srila Radhanath Maharaj actually described the uh, definition of relationship or explain the relationship in that way. Okay, so that was something about the dadati pratigrahanati. So all those aspects are actually not mentioned specifically in the purport by Srila Prabhupada, but these are something which the points which I wanted to share with the devotees, because that is something which will enrich and enhance your understanding about the theme of dadati pratigrahanati. Then coming to the third and fourth loving exchange, and this loving exchange is bhunkte bhojyate, giving food uh, and eating prasad at the in the association of devotees. Now again, I would like to draw your attention and take your imagination and fascination towards this very glorious book called Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in Madhya Leela, chapter number 3, there is a mention of a pastime where Advait Acharya, now you see here this gentleman in the white dhoti and kurta, along with his wife Sita Thakurani. So Advait Acharya and Sita Thakurani invites Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu at his home for lunch. So if you read that particular pastime, you would see that how Advait Acharya and Sita Thakurani uh, fed Shriman Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with so much affection and love. They prepared so many varieties of food. They prepared large quantities of food, and they arranged everything so very nicely, so very neatly. Before offering the food to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, actually they offered all that food to the Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi, and when he entered the house of Advaita Acharya, actually, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that there is so large quantity of food stuff that has been prepared, that has been arranged very nicely by both the husband and the wife. He thought first of all that maybe this food is mainly for meant for distributing to others, and that's how he thought about it. But when Advaita Acharya actually invited the Lord that can you please come and take the food, I would like to offer this food, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu resisted. He said that no, I am a sannyasi, I cannot eat that much food. If I eat that much food, that will be equivalent to doing a sense gratification, so I cannot eat that much food. So Advait Acharya was insisting the Lord to take the food, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was again and again uh, refusing, citing that he's a sannyasi, he cannot take that food. On the other hand, we see that Nityanand Prabhu was also there, uh, and Nityanand Prabhu behaved in a more opposite way. So how did Nityanand Prabhu behave? Nityanand Prabhu said that I am fasting already for 3 days, and today actually is also a fasting day, but the amount of food that you are offering to me actually will not be able to fill even half of my belly. So Nityanand Prabhu actually was joking with Advait Acharya. So in joking spirit, actually he mentioned that to Advait Acharya. So you can see that how that loving exchange was going on between Advait Acharya and Nityanand Prabhu in one way, and the same loving exchange was going on between Advait Acharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in another way. So like that, if you read that pastime, that is very very sweet, and you would come to know how many varieties of food, all that food stuff has been mentioned in the book, how that food stuff was offered by Advait Acharya. There were also uh, two other devotees with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Mukunda and Haridash Thakur. So Mukunda and Haridash Thakur, they declined to eat with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu, considering that it will not be an appropriate behavior or an appropriate etiquette to dine together with the Lord. So, in order to express their respect and their that they are actually Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu are their superiors, they abstained from eating with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityanand Prabhu at the house of Advait Acharya. So, with that pastime, you can see a lot of Vaishnav etiquette going on in this dealing. You can see a lot of loving exchanges going on between the devotees in that pastime. So that is one another pastime from Chaitanya Charitamrita, uh, emphasizing on the aspect of bhungte bhojyate. Similarly, we see more about the details of bhungte bhojyate uh, in from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is when it is the pastime when Haridash Thakur. So Haridash Thakur was one of the exalted devotees who took birth in a Muslim family, but he accepted this uh, Vaishnava way of life, and he is also known as the Nam Acharya in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. He is also known as Nam Acharya. So chanting of the holy name is one of the primary devotional activities in the life of Vaishnavas, and in that spirit, Haridas Thakur actually is regarded as the Nam Acharya. He is the topmost Acharya of as when it comes to chanting of the holy names. So Haridas Thakur would actually chant uh, 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 many rounds of holy names during the day. Actually, he would sleep only for 2 hours. Rest all the time he would spend in chanting of the holy names. Now, when such an exalted devotee, he left his body, and he left his body in a very glorious way, looking at the face of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking the lotus dust at the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and rubbing his with his on his head, on his forehead. He departed from this world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Haridas Thakur departed, he actually took this his body in his lap, and taking his body in his lap, actually all the other Vaishnavas, assembled Vaishnavas, sang the holy names of the Lord. They performed kirtan. But in order to mark the ceremony of the death of such an exalted Vaishnava, there was a ceremony organized in which prasadam was offered to all the assembled Vaishnavas. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally, although he was a sannyasi, he personally went to the market to beg the grains, to beg the raw material for the cooking from many of these shopkeepers. And the shopkeepers actually gave a lot of food stuff to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Leela chapter 11 that how a very large feast was cooked, and the Lord was personally interested in serving all the food stuff to the devotees. Although he wanted to serve it personally, but uh, Sarup Damodar Goswami did not wanted the Lord to personally serve, so he requested the Lord to kindly sit, and he would, with the help of other devotees, would serve to the other Vaishnavas. And then, although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not personally serving, but he was making sure that everyone is served the article or the item what he likes or she like what he likes. So he would ask that, okay, please offer this particular food stuff to this person, you please offer this particular food stuff to this person, he likes this food a lot, he likes this food a lot. So he would make sure that the food stuff is served uh, to the to the right person and to the uh, in right quantity, and he would personally try to do that kind of a activity. So again, from this particular pastime, you can see that how lovingly and how eagerly, with so much eagerness, with so much love and compassion, the food actually is served to the Vaishnavas. Even in ISKCON also, uh, some of you are already in connection with the culture in ISKCON. Maybe many of you would have visited our temples or part of these Sunday feast programs. But many of you who are joining this program from different parts of the world, from different parts of India, and may not have got the opportunity to visit a ISKCON center so far, may want to go to a ISKCON center specifically on Sundays, because on Sundays, Srila Prabhupada, when he started this movement, he would organize a grand program. And in that program, uh, after doing all the Srimad Bhagavatam class, after doing all the prayers and so on, the program actually culminates with a feast. So Prabhupada in his time would prepare the feast by himself, and would actually feed the devotees, serve the devotees by his own personal hands. But that tradition is continuing in many of those ISKCON centers even today. Even today, also, if you go to the ISKCON center, uh, there would be a program called Sunday Love Feast. And so, what happens in that love feast is that a group of devotees actually attend Srimad Bhagavatam class. A speaker is identified, and the speaker presents the class to these devotees. But another small group of devotees in parallel would actually arrange to cook prasad for the other people, other congregation members. Now, what happens in this kind of loving exchange is that the devotees cook uh, prasad for the Lord and for the devotees with lot of devotion. So that food has lot of devotion in it. And when that food with cooked with devotion is offered to the Lord, offered to Lord Krishna accepts that food and mixes his own mercy, his own kripa into that food. And that food is then served to the rest of the congregation. So the devotees, when they eat that food, not only eat the food, but they also experience the devotion of the other devotees and also experience the mercy of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So like that, uh, there's a loving exchange in the community of devotees where a group actually serve another group, and there's a development of loving relationship in the community. So uh, some words of caution also when it comes to bhunkte bhojyate. Now, as we saw, this particular aspect is a symptom of preeti. It is a preeti lakshanam. It should not be turned into a lobha lakshanam. Lobha lakshanam means one should not think in this way that actually now we should go to the house of other devotees, or we should go to the temple actually, and when we go to the temple actually we will go to get to eat some food, or we will get to eat some prasad. Huh? So it should not become a lobh lakshanam kind of a thing. We should understand that it is a preeti lakshanam. Huh? So it is preeti lakshanam. We should not associate a greedy mentality when it comes to partaking food and so on. So the point is that this particular text's instruction that it is preeti lakshanam, the bhunkte bhojyate should not become a license for sense gratification. It should not become a sense gratification exercise. It should be mainly, it should remain at the platform of Preeti Lakshana. Like you can see in the picture how the Supreme Lord Krishna would exchange food stuff when they would go to make the cow graze on the banks of Yamuna. All the cowherd boys and Lord Krishna would exchange their food. They will open their tiffins, what you have brought from home, what you have brought from home, and then they will exchange their food in out of love. That should be the emotion primarily. So coming to the fourth, fifth, and sixth uh, aspect of loving exchanges. The fifth and sixth aspect is guhyam akhyati pritchati, sharing and revealing our heart in confidence, or asking or inquiring from other devotees in confidence. Now, we can divide these kind of sharing of heart at three levels. The Guhyam Akhyati Prichiti principle can be done at three levels. So the very first level is Krishna Lila discussion. The second level discussion is when it is coming to our own particular seva, our own particular service. So we are doing some service, maybe for example, uh, we might be doing some cooking service, we might be doing some book distribution service, or maybe we are doing some preaching service, making presenting classes and so on. So there might be many services we might be doing for the Supreme Lord and for the devotees. So sometimes in that service we get some doubts. So uh, those doubts, when we discuss with devotees, that is something discussion of service or guhyam akhyati. Then finally discussing our inner weaknesses. So let us discuss this Krishna Lila discussion of service, and discussing inner weakness one by one. Now, what is discussing Krishna Lila? So, this is something where we share our heart or where we inquire. Uh, this is an aspect or this is a platform at the topmost level. Discussing Krishna Lila, this is the topmost level. Devotees who are really absorbed in Krishna Katha, devotees who are really sincerely attracted towards Krishna Katha, they like to speak about Krishna with lot of heart, with lot of sincerity. And similarly, devotees who are eager to hear, they will also listen with lot of eagerness, with lot of emotion, lot of attraction towards the katha. And where do we come to know about this? We come to know about this in uh, text number 9 of chapter number 10 of Bhagavad Gita, where you would see that where we have studied about Chatushloki Gita, how in 4 verses Lord Krishna has summarized Gita. So there we hear Kathayantascha mam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So how do the devotees perform this devotional activity? They get together and they speak about Lord Krishna, they hear about Lord Krishna, and by doing so, their heart becomes tushyanticha ramanticha. So this exchange typically happens between the devotees, between the devotees at a more advanced stage. Like we saw, I was giving you the example in the previous class how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really appreciated Rup Goswami's poetry. And then when Rup Goswami spoke that poetry, other devotees, other Vaishnavas also relished that poetry and they really enjoyed that activity and so on. So that is the kind of pleasure or Guhyam Akhyati. This is Guhyam Akhyati at the topmost level where people are eagerly exchanging about Krishna Leela. Then the second aspect is when we discussed about our service, uh, the service that we do for the pleasure of Krishna, for the pleasure of the devotees. And an example from the scriptures discussing one service, we can see from the pastimes of Satyabhama, Queen Satyabhama, who is the queen of Lord Krishna, who asked Draupadi uh, about her service to Pandavas. So this particular story or this particular event is narrated in the Vanaparva of Mahabharata. So Mahabharata is a very big voluminous book with I think over 1 lakh verses. So it has been divided into many parvas, uh, and in one of the parvas it's named as Vanaparva. So in one parva, Queen Satyabhama inquires from Draupadi, Queen Draupadi, that what is the secret of your service to your virtuous husbands? Practically, your husbands are very loyal to you, very affectionate and loving towards you, and you have not only one husband, but you have actually 5 husbands. So, what is the secret of the service? Uh, can you please explain to me? Huh? Uh, have you done some magic to them? Do you mix some herb of special kind in the food that your husbands eat that they become so loyal and so loving towards you? What is the secret? Do you do some kind of a yagya or some homa to make your husband pleased or to actually bring your husband under your control and so on? So Draupadi says that no, my dear Queen Satyabhama, I don't do any of those activities because those activities are done by wicked women. Huh? So we don't need to resort to those kind of means to keep a loving relationship with our husbands. So then Draupadi goes on in detail, and that is very popularly known as this exchange between Queen Satyabhama and Draupadi is very popularly known as Satyabhama Draupadi Samvad, mm, in Vanaparva. So if you have Mahabharata, or you can maybe Google to read that particular pastime. So in that Samvad, in that dialogue, Queen Draupadi mentions that how she serves the husband, and by his nice service, by his sincere service, the husbands are very obedient to her, very loving to her, very caring to her, and so on. So she mentions that she is the first one who wakes up in the house before anyone else wakes up. She is the first one who wakes up. She is the last one after feeding all the people in the family, the brahmanas and all others. He would be the She would be the last one to take rest. So she would be the first one to wake, she would be the last one to rest. Whenever she would see that her husband is entering into the palace, she would rise up in respect. She would offer water, she would offer seat, she would speak some sweet words, she would greet them. uh, she would keep the house very, very clean, she would keep the house very fragrant, she would dress up very nicely for the pleasure of the husbands. She would uh, keep the all the household items properly at their place. She will cook the food well. She will serve the food in a very nice, in a very tasteful manner. And she will never perform any act that will be actually disagreeable to them. And like that, you would see in that samvad there are many, many hints uh, Draupadi gives to Queen Satyabhama how she actually serves the husband. So this is an example where the two devotees are coming together to discuss about their service. So like that, if we have somebody who is preaching or who is giving classes, so we can also inquire from the other person, sir, how do you present your classes, how do you prepare your classes, what kind of books do you read, how much time do you spend. So all these activities are guhyam akhyati prichati, like that. So we can also see from Srila Prabhupada's life also. So Prabhupada would be a very good cook, and he would also be a very good manager. He would also manage the funds of the temple very nicely. He would also be very, very expert in making projects successful. So the devotees would inquire with Prabhupada that how do you do this? How do you? And there would be a lot of uh, exchanges between Prabhupada and the disciples regarding the services and so on. So this is a Guhyam Akhyati at the level of service. So first of all, we taught about Guhyam Akhyati at the level of Krishna Lila discussion, then Guhyam Akhyati at the level of Seva, at the level of service. And the third, but the most important actually, I would say, is Guhyam Akhyati at the level of sharing the inner weaknesses of our heart. Inner weaknesses of our heart. And for devotees, this could be one of the most important Guhyam Akhyati. And we should understand a little bit about these particular aspects also. Now, when we are in devotional life, we are, as we mentioned that in Nectar of Instruction, what we are trying to do, controlling our mind and senses. So controlling and our mind, our senses is like an inner battle that we always keep on fighting. And these are inner battles, our own anarthas. We have liking for some sense gratification, we have liking for some particular food stuff, we have liking for some other uh, particular material activity. But whenever we are going for liking of all these material things, our devotional life is kind of compromised. Now, how do we progress in our devotional life so that uh, our devotional life doesn't get compromised because of our weaknesses of our heart? So we do need help, external help in fighting our private battles. And how do we fight our private battles? Fighting these private battles can become easy if we have a devotee with us whom we are intimately related and who is trustworthy enough, with whom we can actually share some of our innermost feelings, some of our innermost uh, weaknesses that is actually troubling us, and that we can share with the other devotee. But here I would like to mention that these particular aspects of one's life, where we are actually sharing our weakness with another devotee, these aspects of our life should be shared with only those devotees with whom we are intimately related, who can actually understand us. Also, the devotee also should be trustworthy. He should not, after listening from you, should not go out in public and declare, oh, this particular gentleman or this gentle lady actually shared something like that with me. So the codes and the ethics of counseling should be adhered to. Now, we are actually, as preachers, as counselors, we are bound with an oath of secrecy kind of aspect, where we are expected not to share the life or aspects or inner confidential matters of other devotees with others, except in some exceptional circumstances where maybe a devotee has expressed this feeling of committing a suicide, or maybe the devotee has expressed a feeling where which is not in the interest of nation or interest of society at large, and so on. Except in those circumstances where we may have to sensitively share these kind of information with the authorities. Otherwise, we should maintain secrecy, we should maintain privacy when the other devotees share their intimate innermost weaknesses of their heart. So that is how we need to uh, uh, do that kind of guhyam akhyati prichyati. Also, uh, that does not mean sharing our innermost weaknesses or our emotions with other devotees should not mean that we unnecessarily uh, start dumping our emotional garbage on others. Many people are very emotional sometimes, and every time they need someone else to hear them out or to share their emotional feelings and whatever. So, as we should understand that these are some of those moments which we need to, and these are serious issues which we are trying to share with other devotees, but we should not, on the expense of guhyam akhyati prichati principle, start dumping our emotions on others, or let others dump their emotions on ourselves in the name of guhyam akhyati prichati. So we should understand or maintain that balance very well. Okay, coming to the final part of the class today. uh, so Srila Prabhupada has also in the purport have cautioned us with whom we should not associate. Associate, now you have already, we are very clear what does actually association means. Association means sharing emotions, sharing desires, heart to heart connection. Uh, So we should not do those kind of heart to heart connections with at least two categories of people, and these people are Mayavadis and atheists. Atheists are those people who don't believe in God at all. And if we start associating with atheists, we might get influenced by their desires, by their thought, by their philosophy, and so on. Similarly, Mayavadi. So we have discussed in our Ishopanishad class in great details who are Mayavadis. The Mayavadis are those people who actually say that the body of the Lord, the Leela of the Lord, is actually everything is Maya, everything is false, everything is an illusion. So, like that, we have discussed in our previous classes a lot of how Mayavad philosophy actually is something like covered atheism, which actually defies the existence of the Lord. So we should be very very careful in associating with Mayavadis and atheists. Now, what does association of Mayavadi and atheist would mean? Here also some clarification is needed, uh, because if you don't clarify this aspect, people can mistake it. People can actually uh, take it in a wrong way also. There is always a possibility of that. Now, associating with Mayavadis and atheists actually have two possible understanding: associating with them intelligently, and associating not or sorry not associating with them intelligently and not associating with them fanatically. First of all, understand what do you mean by not associating with them fanatically. So what does it mean is, now if you come to know that somebody has some inclination towards Mayavad philosophy or atheist philosophy, and as soon as you come to know, you cut all the ties with that particular person, you brand him or you label him as a fanatic, and you say that I am not going to associate with this person because he's a Mayavadi or he's a fanatic. Now that kind of an approach is known as a fanatical approach. Uh, we should not be taking a fanatical approach. What we should be doing is we should be taking an intelligent approach when we deal with people of these category, mayavadis or atheists or gyanis or karmis, or maybe you can, there are several categories. What is that intelligent approach? That intelligent approach is, you can see the guiding principle is given in this slide. Try to avoid sixfold loving exchanges with these people. Sixfold loving exchanges means exchanging gifts with them, exchanging, I would say, food with them, or sharing our heart with them, confidential matters of your heart with these people. So, as I mentioned, an association is not counted an association unless there is a transfer of desires. There is a transfer of desires, and the transfer of desires is facilitated most when we do these sixfold loving exchanges. So if we try to avoid these sixfold loving exchanges and avoid these transfer of desires, that is how we can associate intelligently with them. So if a person has come to meet you, to ask you, to say hello to you, we should not say that no sir, please don't come, you are from mayavad background or you are from atheist background. We can still associate, but generally we avoid transfer of desires in that association. So avoid as much as possible sixfold loving exchanges with these people. But at the same time, we can come together for preaching, for larger good, and for the sake of service. Now, why this point is being mentioned here is because we are in a movement where we want to spread the message of Bhagavad Gita, where we want to spread the uh, message of loving devotional service towards the Supreme Lord to people at large, educate them, and urge them or appeal to them to accept this process, because that will be in their interest uh, at large, that will be at the interest of the society at large. That is what we want to, why we go to them. But while doing this preaching activity, many times we are in a situation where in some countries, people from Krishna conscious background, people from maybe Hindu background are very, very few. And many times when we are approaching with the to the government of these countries, the government actually does not listen or does not pay much attention unless the government see that there is a sizable group of people whom can actually benefit by our policies. Then only the governments take some interest. Only for few hundred people, government will not take much interest. Now, governments don't differentiate between this is a Vaishnava Hindu or this is a Mayavadi Hindu or this is a atheist Hindu or so. They don't differentiate like that. So, in order to make a case in front of these governments, we may have to unite with a larger section of Hindu or so-called Hindu community, people who are actually come under the large umbrella of what we known as Hinduism today. Hmm. So we can come together for preaching for the larger good and for the sake of service. So having a relationship with the government, we can actually cooperate with these kind of groups which are from the Mayavadi background or which are from maybe other backgrounds from within Hinduism, and then culturally we can represent a bigger community and help forward the purpose and the mission of Sanatan Dharma. So if you see, Srila Prabhupada would also behave in a similar way. So when somebody from a Mayavadi background or that kind of a affiliation would meet Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, when he would discuss the philosophy, he would really be very, very strict and rigid about not accepting the principles that the Mayavadi school of thought is propagating. He would be very, very clear about, and he would do it in a philosophical way, in a respectful way, and so on. But when it came to meeting with them, extending courtesies, extending good behavior, he would always be extending that good behavior to such people. uh. So that is how Srila Prabhupada would behave. Once a Mayavadi sannyasi visited Prabhupada, Prabhupada was in a hospital, he was not well, and this person came to meet with him. So Prabhupada was very, very respectful to this person. He would ask his disciples to bring chair to him. He would cordially discuss the matter, subject matter, and he would be very grateful that he took some time to come to him to inquire about his well-being. So he was very, very respectful. Also, we should differentiate between hardcore Mayavadis and people under Mayavad influence. So many people who have not really come in contact with Vaishnava philosophy or Vaishnava darshan, just because they are born in a particular family, just because they came in contact with a particular spiritual person or somebody so-called spiritualist explaining something about the spirituality and so on, people might take to Mayavad practices in ignorance, without knowing, without understanding the deeper aspect of that particular philosophy. So these people are actually not really Mayavadis. They are actually people who are looking for some spiritual shelter, but they landed up taking that shelter in some place which is more of a Mayavadi influence or Mayavadi inclination. They may not have accepted that philosophy or culture with lot of willingness, with lot of understanding and intelligence. So these are those people who are people under Mayavad influence. But there are other category of people who are hardcore Mayavadis, who would not listen to any argument on personalist philosophy or Dvaita philosophy. So we should differentiate between these people. With hardcore Mayavadis, we should keep a distance. But with people under Mayavad influence, by philosophically, by respectfully explaining them the philosophical aspects of Vaishnava philosophy, we can make a case for Vaishnava philosophy and influence them or make them become or accept Vaishnavism and so on, like that. So you can see how we can associate intelligently. So this is a negative injunction about, but now you can see this last bullet is all about in any relationship when we are making or when we are dealing with people, there are no iron-cladded rule book kind of principles. We need to understand the guidance, we need to understand the mood and the mission, and uh, understand the principle rather than become too much attached to uh, the words or the literal meaning of these sentences. We should actually uh, uh, modify or calibrate our preaching approach, our behavior towards other person based upon time, place, and circumstances. So understand the guiding principles and then deal according to time, place, and circumstances. So coming to the last slide of today, this is also important because many times when people read some of these aspects in Srila Prabhupada's book, they sometimes think that these are principles which are really, really impossible for them to achieve. And this is something about Dadati principle, giving in charity. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport have mentioned the charity principle. uh, So charity principle as Rup Goswami exhibited in his own life. And that principle was that 50% of our income should be given for the service of Lord Krishna and his devotees. 25% of income should be given to the relatives, and 25% of our income should be kept for personal emergencies. So that is the Dadati principle or principle of charity that has been shown and exhibited by Rup Goswami in his own life. And that's what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport of this particular verse. Now, this principle to many of us would sound impossible. So how come 50% of our income we give it to Lord Krishna and devotees? Now here we should understand there is a difference between ideal and real. Ideal is something which you see here, what Srila Prabhupada is presenting here in the purport. But real is our position right now at the moment. So we should not become frustrated or we should not become demoralized by looking at the ideal. So ideal should be a guiding principle and not something to demoralize us. So we should understand this principle of stars versus stairs. There are stars and there are stairs. So stars are something which we look upon high above in the sky, and that's where we want to go. But there are stairs. There are different stages to reach to those stars. And in devotional life also, we are actually climbing these stairs slowly and gradually. Slowly and gradually. So we should keep on looking at stars to understand that this is the ideal where we want to achieve. But taking inspiration from those ideals, we should slowly and gradually try to move towards those ideals. And also, regarding the principle of charity, we should understand that charity is not only an act, but it is also an attitude. Act means, many times people say that, okay, right now I am not so much wealthy. Since I am not so much wealthy, I cannot give any charity to you. When one fine day in future I will become wealthy, I will give charity to you. So here we should understand that charity is not only an act, but it is an attitude. So whatever comfortably we can donate or we can give as a charity, we should try to do it right now, in whatever position, whatever situation we are. Like, uh, you saw that how Sudama went out of the way to actually borrow from his neighborhood to take a gift to Lord Krishna. Although I'm not recommending you to take loans to give charity, but I'm trying to say that, uh, whatever position we are, if we are very wealthy, we should try to give accordingly. If we are not at all wealthy, we should try to give accordingly. We should try to give little bit, or something like that. So with that line, that charity is not only an act but also an attitude, I would like to then sum up the discussion today for this class on the six loving exchanges. And we try to understand in this particular verse how a devotees should associate with each other, and when they associate with these six loving exchanges, the bhakti inside them nourishes and grows very fast. So with that, I would like to bring this class to a rest. All glories to Sri Ishopanishad, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Rup Goswami. So now I would like to open the class for discussions, questions, takeaways, or any comments. Kindly, uh, you may ask in case you have any point to mention. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavad, and thanks. A lot of things have been clarified with your guidance and with your explanations of all the 6 points. And there are plenty of questions, not one, but I will not ask today. I'll ask next time. I'll prepare and ask, because there are many things which I have to make myself clear before I ask. Because I don't want to ask prematurely. I have to listen to it again, recording, and sit with myself. Then I will prepare 1 or 2 questions.
Sure, Prabhuji. Sure.
And
Okay.
Thanks a million. And it's as usual, excellent presentation. Thank you very much, Guruji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for your blessings. Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Ishwar Prabhuji.
I think most of the things are pretty clear, but again, as Dr. Kartar says, that things are not really so simple, because there are many peculiar situations where you need some guidance or real in-depth analysis of doing charity, of sharing thoughts and your inner feelings and all that.
Yes.
So it's a Pandora's box, definitely. But
correct.
What basically I have understood from the last word and the last line is your attitude. I think if your attitude is spiritual, certainly we can see through the situations, maybe wrongly at times, but most of the time we can be on the right track. So attitude, intent is the main thing that I consider that we should be knowing always, everywhere, and every time from morning till
Correct.
the last breath of our life. I think that's most important. We should always keep in mind. Otherwise, for most purposes, as I had known, these things, they involve attachment. And attachment, as you have already told, or think can be detrimental to ascendancy in your spiritual life. So
Yeah.
attachment should not be the obstruction, because attachment of many types. So we should be really careful what we are going through, what we are trying to attain. So really
Yes,
that
Prabhuji.
attitude and the finality with which you have started walking, that should never be left off the mark. That is how
Correct.
I look at the things right now.
Correct. Yes, Prabhuji. So the principles of dharma are not so easy to assimilate.
Yes.
And this is something which we can see from the life of Yudhishthir Maharaj also.
Right.
So Yudhishthir Maharaj also, after the battle of Mahabharat, he was he was lamenting a lot. Say, what did I
Yes.
have? What did I do? I have been the cause of so many deaths and so on and so forth. So at that time, you would see that there is a lot of discussion between Yudhishthir, Pandavas, and Lord Krishna, and so on, where the person who is known as Dharmaraj actually got confused about the what should be the right dharma for him. So where
Yes.
then Lord Krishna actually really clarifies Yudhishthir Maharaj that uh, and pacifies Yudhishthir Maharaj. So you are right. The situations of dharmic uh, debates or dharmic issues sometimes is not so easy to understand.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, Sita Mataji, thank you very much. So
Thank you.
any other
Thank
comment
you.
or question anyone has?
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji.
ये तो आज और क्लियर हो गया. It became more clear today to stay on dharma, to stay on course on dharma.